أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عن بعض أصحابنا عن أبي عبد الله عليه الصلاة والسلام, the sixth Imam عليه السلام, Imam الصادق عليه الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. This hadith has been reported from him. One of the interesting parts is just for a technical point. It says that an ba'di ashabina, from some of our companions. Literally, that's how you would translate it. But in the books of hadith, when the narrator is mentioning something like this, he means the ulama. Ashab meaning those who are around them, not the companions at the time of the Prophet. So there is a way of scrutinizing whether who are these ashab. There might be different groups of ashab. And so they finally realized that, especially Al-Kafi for example, that all the people mentioned in the companions, because the name is not being mentioned who it is, it might be true, it might be false, it might be a liar, who is this ashab, who are these ulama? At the end of the day, you come to the conclusion that all the ulama are trusted in these people. Anyway, so the Imam alayhi salam has mentioned, Man ansafa nas min nafsihi. Whoever does insaf and righteous, acts justly with the people, min nafsihi, even it be against himself. Rudhiya bihi hakaman li ghayrihi. People will be pleased with him to be their judge. If a person acts justly with other people, even though he himself has to suffer, they will also be pleased that he becomes a judge for other people. There's another translation of this hadith that you can find out about. It means that if a person judges people properly and is happy about it, he will also be pleased with how people judge him. This is another translation. We'll take the first translation. If you judge people properly, even though you are going to suffer, then people will be happy if you are to judge other people. Let's break this down, and there are very interesting points with the words that have been used. For example, number one, man ansafa. Insaf is not adalat. If you are to translate loosely insaf, you would say being just with somebody. But in Arabic, insaf is not the same as justice. Insaf comes from the word nif, to do half-half, to share, to deal equally with each other. But it might be you do insaf, but it might not be just. For example, where you have, for example, an apple. Insaf is you give half apple to that person, half apple you keep for yourself. Insaf. But maybe that person does not deserve the half. Maybe he deserves less, but you still give him the half. If you give him his share that he is justly required to get, that is adala. But when you give him half-half, you are doing insaf. So sometimes insaf might be a bit extra, you are doing over justice. You are sacrificing your own haqq also. That is why it is saying, man ansafa min nafsi. That sometimes he has to give up some things if he wants to act fairly with others. When you see such a person who is doing insaf, naturally, it's a common understanding. If you're doing insaf in a way whereby you are suffering, what will the other person think? That although it is his right to get that thing, he is still leaving it to me. He is still giving me the extra right. That trust is built. That you can act fairly, you're not egoistic, you're not selfish, you're not biased, that you think about yourself before others. No. You think about doing good to me even if you are suffering. Man ansafa nas. You might think, okay, maybe this is a rule that applies to Islam, Muslims. No, this is a rule that applies to humanity. Any person, Allah has created human beings as a creation whereby if they see someone sacrificing himself, then it doesn't matter to them whether it's Muslim, non-Muslim. If you have citizens and you see the president, for example, is a non-Muslim, but he's doing insaf, he's doing justice, they will be for him. No matter what they are, no matter who he is, which religion he comes from. Because he is doing insaf. In fact, we have reviled. It says that a government will be remaining and stand firm when the leader is just. The government continues to exist if the leadership is just. But if the leadership is a Muslim, it's not necessary that it will continue to exist. For example, if you say today there are Arabian countries, Iran, for example, also you can include that. Even though it's Islam, once they show that they are not doing insaf, the people will come against them. But they are Muslims. No. Justice is the reason why a government remains firm and remains behind. It's because in akhlaq, if you were to ask anybody, it's a debate among the Western scholars. What is that thing? What is the good thing that everyone accepts? For example, is charity a good thing? Someone will tell you, yes, it's a good thing. But someone else will tell you, no, charity is not good all the time. Sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might be bad. If you give charity to a person who is always begging, people will say, don't give charity now. So charity depends on the situation. But there is one good thing, one good value that is always good and everyone accepts it. Adra Misbah, Rahmatullah alayhi, says that is justice. No one will say justice is bad. And then underneath that, everything will come. Charity, should I give charity or not? What is justice saying? Should you give? It is the right thing to do, yes. That is justice, charity becomes good. Justice is the filter of whether something is good or bad. Justice is the essence of all goodness, in other words. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. Man ansafan nas min nafsihi. There are sometimes that we have to act justly, but it might be against ourselves. We might have done something wrong, and therefore we have to low and become humble so that the other person trusts in us. For example, I'll give you a home example, very common example might be happening. You left the light on at home, and then you are maybe the man of the house, the woman of the house, and then you ask the people around you in the house, who left the light on? And then you start asking them, asking this person, and then they become angry. You become angry. At the end of the day, you realize, wait, this light that was left on was by me. It was my fault. Man ansafan nas min nafsihi means here, insaf is, justice is, I have to go tell everybody, whoever I blamed, it was my fault. That person will then start to trust you. Because you did insaf, although you had to suffer here. Your name was going to get spoiled. Another one, for example, we said this is justice. Even more further. If you have, for example, a dessert that came at home and your child wants it, and you know, children, their stomach is this much, our stomach is this much. Of course, for some people it varies in size. Here you might say, okay, this child is small. Justice is, if I get, for example, 1 bar of chocolate, I'll give him 2 pieces, I'll keep 6 pieces. I'm bigger, I need a bigger share. This is justice. But insaf means I will give him 4, I will take 4. So you have actually sacrificed. What do you think will happen to the child? Next time, if he has any issue and he realizes you sacrifice, he will come to you. You don't need to ask him to come to you, he will come to you. Because he knows you are fair in your dealing, even though you are suffering. Socially, let's look at this. In the time of the Prophet, when Hijrah was taking place, we had the Ansar in Medina and the Muhajirin in Makkah, they were coming towards the Ansar. They didn't have anything, they had lost everything. When you come to the Ansar, what do the Ansar have? Not much, but they were ready to sacrifice. Look at what Allah says in Surah Al-Hashr about them. وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. It's talking about those who had accepted religion and they had a place in Medina, the Ansar. يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. They love the people who are coming towards them, the muhajirin, the immigrants. وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِمَّا أُوتُوا. And they didn't have extra, for example, need for whatever was given to them. In other words, they didn't have any ill feeling to the people who are coming. Why give them this much? Why we have this much? Why do we have to share? In fact, they went one step ahead. Allah is praising him in the Quran. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. The hadith says, مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, it says, عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ, if you look at it in Balaghat, means this is your nafs. Your nafs wants that you don't want to share 50-50. Allah means you step on your nafs and you tell it, keep quiet, I am talking here. I am going to give him half. Even though, the verse continues, وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. Even though they were poor themselves. To give charity when you are rich is a good deed. But to give charity when you are suffering yourself in a sort of 50-50 insaf, that person will trust you now. He is suffering, but he is giving me half his wealth. Let's say the salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Recently at work, there was a person who had done something wrong, and he started to check who was the person who did it. So he went here, he investigated from this person, investigated from that person. At the end of the day, he realized, wait, this was my fault. I was the one who accepted this thing to go forward. Insaf here means, you don't say, okay, the issue is settled, let's just continue with our life. Insaf here means, this person messaged that person whom he was blaming and said, I apologize, it was my mistake, I am the one who let this go through, I gave the permission. The next thing that that person whom he was talking to said was, okay, there is another issue, can you help me out in this? The hadith continued, Rudhiya bihi. That person whom you have hurt and blamed, if you agree that you have done wrong, that person will come back to you and say, okay, fine, you did a mistake, no problem, we are all human beings. But I have another issue, can you help me with this? Trust does not go down if you admit your mistakes. Trust goes higher if you admit your mistakes. And it's not something you have to force. For example, I want to become the leader of a community. If you want to become Pramukh over here, it's not like I have to go and start begging people. Trust me, I am a right person for this job. No, not necessarily. This hadith is telling us from the ilahi perspective, divine perspective, there's another way you can do it. You build your reputation before. Whenever there is something you have to judge, do half-half. Be just. Even if you have to suffer. When people will see you are suffering, though you are just, they will give you the words. You don't need to worry too much. The rule of Allah, Allah is telling you. The Imam is telling you. In fact, who will tell you? Is it like, for example, only the Shia community will accept you? No, everybody. We see this in our youngsters. If you deal with them nicely and you are fair with them, you are not sticking to your traditions, you are telling the truth of what Islam is, they will come the next day and then ask you another question. Because they know this person is not talking biasly because he has heard this, he's just forwarding the message. No, he actually believes and he's actually fair with whatever he says. And that is where ligayrihi comes. That is where when they see this person, when it's to judge, he does not judge with ego, with biasness, with arrogance. I don't want to stoop down. I'm going to judge fairly. They will naturally, when another issue comes, they say, who should be the best judge for this matter? Wait, there was a person before, he judged between me and him, and he was fair. In fact, he even sacrificed. Let's go back to him. They will be your publicizers. They will be your campaigners. This person is the right person for the job. We have seen him do it. Then you don't have to speak. Your actions will speak for you. In fact, I'll end with these two stories. You might think that it's a very difficult thing. It is very difficult to break your ego, your nafs, and tell it that you have done wrong, accept your mistake. Or even if you have not done wrong, you have to sacrifice extra, 50-50, although you deserve 70-30. People will trust you. Is it possible for us? There was a man, a scholar in one of the countries. He wanted to meet the Imam alayhi salam. So as you know, we call it Chehle, where you spend 40 days in the mosque to meet the Imam. For example, Masjid Sahla. So he spent 40 days trying to meet the Imam. And he used to recite those, for example, the Urafa give you wird. some recitations you do, so you meet the Imam. He used to do that 40 days, weird du'as, mystical stuff. Still no answer. Then he got an ilham that you are doing this thing, you will not meet the Imam here. You will have to travel to another city. So he travels to another city. When he moves to the other city, then again he finds a mosque over there and he does the same thing. 40 days he wants to spend in the mosque so that he meets the Imam. On the 37, 38 days, again he gets the ilham. If you want to meet your Imam, the only way is now go to this blacksmith's shop, the one who makes locks. So he goes to the shop, he goes inside and he recognizes this is the Imam. The Imam, he does salam to the Imam replies to his salam, then he tells him to remain silent. Observe what the owner of this shop is doing, the blacksmith himself. What happens? He sees there is a person, a lady, old lady is coming with a lock in her hand. You might have heard of this story. She comes with a lock and then she tells the shopkeeper, the blacksmith, that I want to sell this lock. Please, for the sake of Allah, buy this for 3, they call it shahi, 3 coins. So the man said, he looked at the lock and he said, after long conversation, he said, no, the worth of this lock is not 3 shahi, not 3 coins. Its worth is 8 coins. I cannot buy it from you for 3. I need to buy it for you from more. Because it's 8 coins and I want a profit, I will buy it from you for 7 coins. One coin I'll keep profit for myself. The woman is saying, no, just buy it for me for 3. I really need of money. He said, how can I do this? How can I deceive you? It is worth 7. I'm going to give you 7. I don't want to deceive you. This woman says, I went to all the shops. No one is ready to buy from me. You are ready to buy from me with insaf, with justice. You are ready to sacrifice, although you are going to lose money. 4 extra you have to pay. But you did that. Imam is telling this person, you don't need to do chehele 40 days in the mosque. You don't need to recite extra wird and zikr and something fancy. No, not necessary. You act like this person. Be just in your rulings. I will come to visit you. And you say that this man was visited every week by the Imam. In fact, when it comes to justice, there is no one better than Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is a very good example of insaf. And we have heard of this story. It is said that Imam alayhi salam lost his armor, Zared. And he goes into the market and he sees his armor, a shield. He goes there and he sees there is a person, they say it's either a Jew or a Christian. Is this his person that he has taken his armor? So he goes to the person and says that it was a Christian person, for example, that you have taken my armor, please return it back to me. The person said, no, this is not yours, this is mine. And in Islamic law, the rule is, it says that if something is in your possession, for example, this phone is in my possession, and somebody claims it, he has to bring the evidence because the phone is in my hands. He has to bring the claim, goes to him. So Imam says, let's go to the court. In the court, the judge is Shurayh. So in one incident, it is mentioned that he calls Imam alayhi salam Abul Hasan, title of the Imam, the laqab of the Imam. The Imam tells him, no. If I were to put in my words, be just, be fair, do insaf. If you are calling me by name, if you are calling this other Masihi Christian by name, call me by my name. Don't call me Abul Hasan. It's not fair. Tell him that you are claiming this is your armor. Where is your proof? The Imam is laughing, or they said, I don't have my proof. I don't have any evidence. You know, there is another rule in Islam, in the court, whereby if you don't have evidence, you can prove your point by doing qasam. I asked my teacher, why didn't Imam do qasam over here? The Imam is very careful. They don't do qasam and take the name of Allah to prove their point. Very careful. The Imam does not do qasam here and says, fine, this thing is of this Masihi because I don't have my evidence. Insaf, based on the Sharia of Islam, even though the ruling went against the Imam, min nafsihi. Outside the court, the Christian comes to the man, to Imam alayhi salam, and tells him that this dealing that I saw just now is not a dealing of human beings. It is a dealing of the Anbiya. You are ready to sacrifice yourself, Khalifatul Muslimin. He's ready to sacrifice, although he knows he's on the right path. He's saying, in fact, this armor was the one that I saw you dropped when you are on the horse and you are coming back from Siffin. So he accepts that it was not his, it was Imam alayhi salam. He said, today, again, he said, Rubiya bihi, that the people will be pleased with you. You don't have to do anything. He said, this person became a Muslim. And he followed Imam alayhi salam in Nahrawan to fight the Kharijis. Rudiya bihi hakaman bi ghayrihi. Here he accepts Imam is my hakim. In fact, he's my leader now. Everything I do for the Imam. Imam shows it clearly. You do something with insaf, with the qanun which is written down. Even though you are going to suffer, then don't worry about the result. In fact, Imam alayhi salam also gives him the armor and says, now this is yours. Imam didn't want the armor. He wanted insaf over here. And insaf is what was given. We pray to Allah, inshallah, that we get the tawfiq to be like this, companions of the Imam and the Imam, that when the Imam alayhi salam comes and he reappears, that we will be among the judges in his empire. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali tayyibin at-tahirin.